Welcome to HDTV. You're now rocking with your boy. Yahoo Finance Live checks out Nike's latest sneaker deal with Vanessa Bryant to honor her late husband and daughter. Dave Briggs, speaking of supply chain issues, they've been a real issue for Nike this year, and that is his play, but they are still having a pretty good week. Solid news on a ratings beat just a couple of days ago, and now some more nice news for Nike. For NKE, Nike. And that is that Vanessa Bryant, the widow of Kobe Bryant, has reached an agreement with Nike to make sneakers dedicated to both Kobe and their late daughter Gigi. Now, originally, she said they were making those sneakers without her permission. She shared this message on Instagram that I'm so proud my husband's shoes are still the most worn by players on NBA courts, and that the demand for his shoes remains so desired by his fans around the world. No doubt the dedication to Kobe Bryant has not waned one bit. In fact, it has only grown. So moving forward, they will make you both Mamba and Mamba Cedar shoes. You can see those online with Gigi on the heels, and 100% of those shoes made about Gigi will be proceeds donated to their foundation. So a very nice story there. As for the stock, well, down from their 52-week high of 179.10, but still up today at $1.14, about less than 1% to 133.23. So many interesting innovations in that direct-to-consumer approach. Nike looking very positive as we move to the weekend, guys. Rachel Akufo, and I do love that positive note that a lot of people obviously still miss Kobe. So I'm glad that Nike and the Bryant family were able to reach an agreement on this. I think it's a lovely way to honor them. And this was spoken by NKE, the finances, Dave Briggs. This is Dave Briggs that was speaking about this. And I'm happy, man. I'm glad because, we need those Kobe shoes, man. Kobe, to a lot of us, was, one of he's an idol, as well as not only is he an idol, he's a man of respect. He's a man who came back from hell, started off great, hated him after the accusations, came back and had probably one of the greatest careers, if not greatest, in history. And when you talk about a top five or talk about the greatest players of all time, you will always mention Kobe Bryant. If you don't, then you're just an idiot. That's why I don't listen to these sports people like Nick Wrong, Big Nose, or that FYF guy, or, all these other clowns who are YouTube guys talking about he's not top 10. It's like, come on, that's ridiculous. Let's stop it. Let's stop it. I understand if you were born in the 40s, 50s, or the 60s, or 70s, hell, 80s, excuse me. I understand if you don't have Kobe that high, but Kobe's top 5. You can hate it or love it. Now, this is good. I hope I could get some shoes of my size to honor Gigi as well as Kobe. Like Mom said, they were attached to the hip. That was going to be the next one. She was going to revitalize. Kobe and her were going to reinvent the WNBA. The WNBA would have been a lot better. But now you got guys who really don't care. So Kyrie is stepping up when he gave, I think, part of his salary, half his salary, I believe, a part of it, or that's what half is part, to the WNBA women's because they weren't making no money. All right. So in other news, Deion Sanders calls out Panthers, 9 other teams. It's been a big week for the Carolina Panthers, as they've been all over the map, traveling to various pro days, mainly getting a good look at the quarterbacks in this year's draft class. On Tuesday, the Panthers sent GM Scott Fitterer, head coach Matt Rule, offensive coordinator Ben McAdoo, QB's coach Sean Ryan, among several others, to be in attendance for Liberty's Pro Day to get an up-close look at QB Malik Willis. Tuesday just so happened to be Pro Day at Jackson State University as well, and head coach Deion Sanders was not very happy with 10 NFL teams who failed to send a single representative to watch, including the Panthers. Yesterday was phenomenal. I mean, flat out phenomenal. All the kids that participated on Pro Day, hats off to you. God bless you. The people that came and supported the coaches from the SWAC schools and various schools that came to stand for their kid, I love you. 22 teams came to witness our kids yesterday in its entirety. I appreciate you, but there's 32 teams in this Crayola box. Therefore, the Dolphins, the Broncos, the Texans, the Bills, the Buccaneers, the Ravens, the Panthers, the Browns, the Vikings, and the Eagles. Where art thou? You could have sent somebody, man. You could have shown up just a little bit. But I guarantee you, you're going to go to Mississippi State and Ole Miss. I understand. I understand you saying they're going to have more talent. I understand. Guess what? We coming. And when we arrive, you better be here because our kids deserve it. You could have sent the scout. You could have sent somebody. That's all I'm saying. We won't forget. Sanders clearly understands that Power 5 and even Group of 5 schools have more talent than teams in the SWAC. However, Sanders is building something special at Jackson State and even landed the top player in the 2002 recruiting class over Florida State, which was cornerback Travis Hunter. The problem Sanders has with those 10 teams is the fact that they didn't even send a regional scout to be on hand. He's not wrong either. All 32 teams should have sent at least one representative. There is talent in the SWAC and at HBCUs across the country. Due to the size of the schools and the level of competition they play, they often get overlooked. Over the years, there have been a number of elite players that have come from HBCUs, including wide receiver Donald Driver, QB Steve McNair, which was Donald Driver and Steve McNair, who are Alcorn State alumni, QB Doug Williams, Grambling State, defensive end Robert Mathis, Alabama A&M, defensive end Michael Strahan, Texas Southern, tight end Shannon Sharp, Savannah State, cornerback Mel Blunt, who went to Southern, running back Walter Payton, who's probably the greatest running back ever at Jackson State, and wide receiver Jerry Rice, who's probably the greatest receiver ever, Mississippi Valley State, just to name a few. Top prospects that participated at Jackson State's Pro Day include linebacker James Houston, cornerback Al Young, wide receiver Keith Corbin, defensive back C.J. Holmes, and linebacker Keontae Hampton, along with Alcorn State prospects quarterback Felix Harper, defensive back Torrance Wilson, running back Stafford Anderson, defensive back Zach Wilson, wide receiver LaCharles Pringle, and defensive back Jawan Taylor. Jawan Taylor. Now, Deion Sanders got a point. Deion Sanders has a goddamn point, don't he? Don't he got a point? You see, this is the BS and the hypocrisy of the NFL. The NFL wants to tell you, oh, we're diverse and everything. We're trying our best. No, they not. Why ain't send nobody down there to look at those young black men? Oh, I know why. Keyword, black men. I'm going to keep calling out race. I don't care. People can say everything ain't got nothing to do with race. Yes, it does. If you go to the store, doesn't it say black pepper? And when you go get salt, doesn't it say white salt? Right? Or iodized salt, which is white? Come on now. Come on, people. Y'all got to wake up. Come on, wake up. Wake up. HD preaching today, man. We in session. Church is in session. But I don't need your collection plate. You can donate if you want to. I want you to donate for yourself. I don't want to force you to donate. Now, look. I'm so sick and tired of the BS from the NFL and these players. I mean, I'm not the NFL. I'm getting the NFL and on these teams. These teams have been continuously showing nothing but racism and prejudice. And it's coming to a point where They can't keep us back forever. They can't keep the black quarterback out. They can't keep a black owner out because it's too much social media, too much pressure. They're getting pressured every day by this. They're getting outed. But I told you, the fans are majority pink folk and there are racists. They're undercover racists. They don't know it, but they are. It's not their fault. They've been programmed to be that way. So I understand if a white person is ignorant. I don't get mad at them no more. You know why? Because they've been programmed. 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 They've been programmed to do whatever they've been programmed to do whatever they like, say whatever they like. But as soon as a black man says something or calls them out on their bull crap, oh man, they quick to cop please. They copping please right now. Deion Sanders is not the one. Now, Deion Sanders is pissed off a lot of people, you know, because he's pissed off a lot of people because of his stances. He's pissed off a lot of people. However, where are those teams at? Oh, well, Deion has to understand. Deion don't got to understand shit. Deion is here to win football games. Deion is here to put these kids on the map. You know, it's about that time to start giving the SWAC and giving the MEAC, giving the black colleges, the historical black colleges, their love. The HBCUs deserve their love. Historical black collegiate universities. That is what, to me, needs to be praised more, needs to be promoted more. Not the ratchetness, not the BS, but the real. And these guys have the right to be looked at. A lot of the greatest players of all time, like Shannon Sharp, Jerry Rice, Steve McNair, all of these guys and Walter Payton have come from historical black colleges. So what else do they have to do? Like, what else do we have to do to prove that we can play on that level? See, that's what I'm saying. Thank you, Deion Sanders, man, for calling that out. Now, also in the news, about half of the U.S. water is too polluted for swimming, fishing, or drinking, report finds. More than 700,000 miles of waterways, about 51% of assessed river and stream miles remain impaired with pollution. That's on top of another 55% of lake acres and 26% of estuary miles. Excuse me. Let's see. The Clean Water Act, which was passed into law 50 years ago, has fallen well short of its goals. A new analysis finds nearly half of the rivers and streams across the U.S. are considered too polluted to meet quality standards for swimming, recreation, aquatic life, fish consumption, or as drinking water sources. The Environmental Integrity Project, which is the EIP, a nonpartisan nonprofit formed by former Environmental Protection Agency or the EPA attorneys, published a report that found alarming results of water quality tests in all 50 states. More than 700,000 miles of waterways, about 51% of assessed river and stream miles, remained impaired with pollution. That's on top of another 55% of lake acres and 26% of estuary miles. The report defines impaired as waters that are too polluted to meet standards for swimming and recreation, aquatic life, fish consumption, or as drinking water sources. Some states have done better than others. The reports found Indiana tops the list of states with the dirtiest waterways, with 24,395 total miles of rivers and streams considered impaired for swimming and recreation. Second is Oregon, and third is South Carolina. Florida ranks first in the U.S. for total acres of lakes classified as impaired for swimming and aquatic life, and second for total lake acres listed as impaired for any use. California also ranks first when it comes to the most river and stream miles listed as impaired for drinking water and third for fish consumption. EIP argues all of this data still does not provide the full extent of the nation's water pollution because all states monitor their waterways differently, with no universal guidelines provided by the EPA. That's on top of limited funding and budget cuts causing state environmental agencies to be understaffed and unable to test all their waters within the mandated time periods. Across the U.S., EIP projects 73% of rivers and stream miles have not been assessed during the most recent cycle, the same holding true for 49% of lake acres and 24% of bay areas. The results come despite federal regulations mandated by the Clean Water Act of 1972, which has directed over $1 trillion in investments into wastewater treatment plants and has driven substantial improvements in water quality. However, the act has not achieved what is promised. According to EIP, it outlined multiple ways the EPA could strengthen enforcement and modernize pollution solutions. Updating regulations is the first step, as EIP argued that the EPA has not updated its technology-based limits for highly polluting industries like chemical manufacturing since the 1970s, back when modern technology meant computers with floppy disks. That's despite a mandate within the Clean Water Act that requires the EPA to re-examine water pollution standards for industries every 5 years to keep pace with improving pollution control technology. Agriculture runoff is another area that needs to be addressed, as EIP believes that is by far one of the largest sources of impairments in waterways across the U.S. Factory-style animal production has become an industry with a massive waste disposal problem and should be regulated like other large industries, said EIP's report. That's in reference to pollution from agriculture, which can allow excess fertilizer and manure to wash into streams and rivers that leads to algal blooms that can quickly turn toxic. Within the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, describing the process as algae that grows out of control, causing human illness or even death in extreme cases. Consistency is another area in need of attention, as currently the EPA lets states decide the issues surrounding the assessment of waterways, including interpreting water quality criteria, how frequently data is collected, and the method of analysis and classification. Essentially, there are no universal guidelines for waterway impairment designations for all 50 states as a means for gauging unhealthy levels of key pollutants like nitrogen. The Clean Water Act did make significant strides in cleaning up the country's waterways by the 1990s and 2000s, with one 2000 EPA report estimating an additional 16,507 miles of rivers and streams had been made swimmable because of the act, and an additional 24,713 miles had also been made fishable. Notably, EIP's report said those improvements were due not only to increased funding and stronger laws, but to the dedicated work of tens of thousands of workers inside and outside the government who dedicated their lives to making America's water cleaner. President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure bill does include funding for water pollution control efforts, with the EPA announcing earlier this month it intended to work with state, local, and tribal partners to implement $43 billion in water infrastructure funding. So basically, that's just talking about the pollution, and everybody knows about the pollution, but that's just giving you a heads up on where we're sending all these trillions of dollars to help these people in Ukraine when we have a racism problem, police problem, infrastructure problem, which I just told you guys. Our infrastructure is very poorish. Lack of jobs, lack of community development, lack of education. All of these things fall in that line. So you guys, we got to do our research. We got to step up as people. I'm not saying, oh, black people, we got to come together. Look, man, black people, we just never going to come together. So we got to start getting the people who we know we could come together with and go from there. That's all we can do, man. That's all. We can't help everybody. Every other blacks, man, some of these blacks are ignorant. But the majority, we can find the majority that want to put their money in, want to do something different. We can do that. We're already showing that with other people out here in the communities. You have people in the communities doing their job. But us, we have to do our job as well. We got to come up with a plan. It can't just be one or two of us or 100 of us going down the march. No, it need to go down to Congress or the White House and get some bills changed. No, we need a lot of people. We need thousands of people, not just 100. So thank you guys for listening. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share this. Hit that notification bell to select all to receive upcoming notifications. And if you love what you hear, you can donate to the page by going to my description box, hitting that link in my Cash App, and hitting that link, it'll take you to my Cash App where you can donate whatever your heart desires. Also, when we have a live video or premiere, you guys can super chat, man. You guys can super chat $1 or $2. Come on. So thank you for listening. We out. Deezy.